Right. Hello, everyone. So I'm sorry I missed yesterday. I decided to skip. There's a lot of stuff going on with the cancellation school now, but let's move on. And we're going to talk today about George Ambrose Fuller, 1891 to 1954. And we'll tie in the burning question, which is this here. This cement pad here is our burning question of the day. It ties up to the back of my barn. And to go on with the history. So George Ambrose Fuller, his parents built this farm, and in his early days, he was in the armed forces and came back home, but then he also went back downstate to work at the auto industry when it was booming. He stayed at his brother's house down near Detroit, and ended up coming back home and getting married and taking the farm over from Marietta. And him and his wife did chicken production and dairy. There's more barns on this farm than there is now. We'll talk about that later on. That will be a question for tomorrow I'll throw into. It's sweet that Mrs. Jean Woodhams down the road, very sweet grandma, used to come over in her younger years and help Emily Fuller wash eggs and converse with her. So that's very, very sweet to know that there's a connection of a living neighbor who is tied to our farm too. So to get on to George's story, in 1954, he was doing some farming, and in the olden days, they used to bury boulders in fields. There's a field, directly out that way from our house. He was out there working, and sadly enough, the boulder fell on him and crushed him. So he passed away on this property. His son found him later on. It took 2 tractors and tackle to get the boulder moved enough to recover him, and so it's a little haunting as the numbers are stacking up on our farm, and we'll have an end count when I'm done with this series. But for the burning question of this cement slab here, and its connection to the farm in George, is that when we moved in, that this was a dairy shed on the side, and our house would not pass inspection because it was only hanging from the side of the barn by some cables up there. So my husband and his friend Jeff and I came here actually like a couple days before we actually closed on the house to dismantle the shed so that the inspection would go through. So while Mike was out here dismantling the shed, our friend Jeff was in the house working, turning the furnace on in the basement, doing some checks there to make sure that the furnace could work for the inspection. Jeff, very no nonsense kind of guy, fun but no nonsense, heard somebody calling out to him, assuming that it was Michael, but then learned that Michael was out here the entire time. So from that point on, that was the very first encounter of spookiness that someone had in our house. Someone calling somebody in the basement. Plain as day, he said, a voice he thought was Michael calling out to him. There was no neighbors close enough around for him to have heard someone outside or neighboring. Mike did not call out. So that's where it's all started. So then to tie the burning question of the cement slab here, which is part of the previous dairy shed that they had to dismantle when they heard a voice. In the corner of the slab, you can see it's piled with wood and whatnot from us cleaning up. We found a date and initials of, I think it was 1953. So it would be a year before, I think, that was the construction of this slab for this small dairy shed. Had troughs and whatnot over there, which is saddened. It's very sad to me because I assume George put that there with his son a year before he passed away. So that is the burning question. This cement slab ties into the voice in the basement, perhaps? I don't know. When they're dismantling the shed? I don't know. You make your own conclusions. Okay, so thanks again for listening. Again, just trying to pass the time. We're all bored sharing stories, hoping that friends and family will also do the same so that we can stay connected. And tomorrow's story will talk about the other barns in the back that are not all longer there and what their purpose was. A little odd, a little eerie. So tune in, and thanks again for listening.